2023 was an incredible year for the Nintendo Switch. I opened the year still in the PlayStation corner and was almost an active denier of the Switch and its place in the video game landscape. A couple of big game announcements and the chatter of friends in my community about the huge, upcoming year for Nintendo piqued my interest. By the midpoint of 2023, I was squarely in the corner of Nintendo and started listing myself as a Switch convert on my social media profiles. There were so many great games released this year, I can't cover them all, but this is my list of the 5 Switch games that I fell for. Let's jump right into it. Fire Emblem Engage released early in the year on January 20th. Right out of the gate, I felt like we had a true Game of the Year contender. The game was not only a return to form after the detour, though much beloved, that Three Houses took. The game focused on that classic, strategic combat the series was known for. Adding in the ring system allowed players to fight alongside their favorite heroes from games of yesteryear. Though many reviewers lamented the game's move away from the deep, dramatic, personal storytelling of Three Houses, I still found the characters unique and engaging. I especially admired the inclusion and variety of characters of varying nationalities, lifestyles, etc. Though the interactions between the Emblem Ring characters were admittedly lackluster, the interactions between characters in the party held significant emotional weight and impact. I count Alfred, Panette, and Saphir as some of my favorite new characters in video games. Regardless of the public consensus or discourse, I greatly enjoyed the game, and at the end I was clamoring to complete each paralogue and max out my characters. I found it imperative to see all of each character's bond interactions and have Alir give each the promise ring. My Nintendo Switch is still filled with screenshots from these often emotional and beautiful scenes. If you are looking for a new entry in the tactical RPG field with perfected mechanics, a light and digestible story, and the nostalgia for games of yesteryear, I cannot recommend Fire Emblem Engage enough. Moving a few more months into 2023, Sasa and the Lost Demon launched on March 17th. I had seen the announcement trailers, and I was well aware of the iconic character of Bayonetta. I was still on the fence about picking it up. On the morning of release, as I was leaving work, I decided to grab it as I thought it would be a fun game to stream with my community. That night, I was shocked at how much I enjoyed this refreshing look at the series. The game features a unique twin-stick control scheme for the two characters of Sasa and Cheshire. Though awkward at first, within a short period of time, it felt like second nature. I was enamored by the colorful, atmospheric art. Every new section of the map brought new visual surprises. The elemental combat system was perfect. It all felt so natural and smooth. For me, the most vivid and incredible thing I remember about the game months and months after was the emotional story. Seeing someone we know grows up to become the ultimate, ass-kicking femme fatale, being so vulnerable, sad, and scared was jolting. When Sasa cried, I cried. When Sasa was scared, I was scared for her as well. The game comes to a beautiful and climactic end, with the sections leading up to the final boss fight being filled with both wonder, revelations, and twists in the story. When I finished watching the lovely ending and the credits rolled, I knew I had just experienced something wholly unique and refreshing. That is a rarity this day and age in the video game industry. Sasa and the Lost Demon gets my highest recommendation. I was honestly a vehement doubter of open-world Zelda. I had tried and failed to get into Breath of the Wild numerous times in the past. As we got closer to the release of Tears of the Kingdom, I finally gave in to the media and peer pressure and told myself I would fully play through Breath of the Wild. I rarely will admit being wrong. I was dead wrong. Breath of the Wild became one of my favorite games of all time. I made numerous lore and deep dive videos focusing on the brutally emotional story. I was obsessed. I moved right into Tears of the Kingdom within a week of its release. Being able to play in that same world but experience something that felt new yet familiar and comforting was a treat. The skies were fun, but the depths were absolutely incredible. All of the new abilities and the lovely weapon system tweaks opened a whole new world for me. Though I avoided a lot of the building initially, by the end of the game, I had to have the perfect raft, cycle, and aircraft in my saved builds. I gleefully collected the tears and ate up the ancient history of the struggle for Hyrule. Though the story of Rauru and Sonia didn't affect me like the champions did in Breath of the Wild, I was still enthralled. I got to the end of the game and stopped dead in my tracks. I had to complete everything. I had to have every outfit. Oh, the outfits. I must have spent hours mixing, matching, and dyeing Link's wardrobe and sharing my pictures on Twitter. I remember feeling almost sad when I had fully exhausted what the world and game had to offer. I was in for one final epic encounter. Simply put, the ending boss fight and cutscenes were some of the most incredible experiences I've had in gaming. This game and its predecessor got me to make so many new friends, go on podcasts, and create so much content, I can never fully repay Nintendo for this experience. I almost don't see them as separate games. They are one big, beautiful story for the ages. You absolutely have to experience both. Harvest Moon: Winds of Anthos was another game I was unsure if I'd partake in. As far as my go-to farming simulator, I'd switched to the spin-off, Story of Seasons, long ago. Something caught my eye in one of the trailers I saw a few days before its release, and I decided I would pick it up the morning it came out. I got home and I was immediately hooked. Something about the way it was presented and the new, much larger open world just spoke to me. It brought me back to another time when I played the games earlier in the series, when I was obsessed with maxing out all my tools, house, barn, and output. The fact that there were now so many characters I could interact with or romance made me start planning out who I'd get close to. It was all over for me the first time I saw the zebras roaming around in the plains. Me and my trusty striped steed, Zebby, went from town to town rebuilding them, building friendships with their inhabitants, and fishing the local ponds, rivers, and seas to near extinction. I played fervently for weeks. I still look forward to going back and catching, believe it or not, a velociraptor mount, and getting the yetis from across the globe to live on my farm. If you've been away from the series for a while, or if you are new to it, I highly suggest picking it up. If you have stuck with Harvest Moon through the ups and downs, let me tell you, friend, things just got a whole lot better. I have been obsessed with Persona since I first threw that disc into my PlayStation one fateful day years ago. I've played and adored them all, spin-offs included. They led me to the wealth of SMT content as well. So when Persona 5 Tactica was announced, I was excited to rejoin the Phantom Thieves, who at this point, after 2 main games and dancing, are like family to me now. I of course brought it home the moment it released. I was immediately enamored with the art style, and Irena, one of the new characters introduced in this game, immediately shot up my list of SMT all-timers. The only frustrating thing is waiting for the talented artists across the net to produce fan art of her so I can fill up my phone and laptop with it. The story is immediately hilarious, but also by the end of the first chapter starts to get into some heavy stuff, and that theme continues throughout. There are so many moments you will laugh, there are so many moments you will cry. It really is masterfully done. One thing I have to mention is that this game also did a great job of making me care for some of the team I wasn't so interested in the first time around, or the second. Yosuke and Haru are 2 of my favorites this time around, when that was reserved for Mona and Makoto before. The combat is brilliant, flawlessly mixing tactical, cover-based combat like that in XCOM, with the traditional Persona RPG mechanics and flair. I found myself replaying missions to ensure I got the maximum stars and rewards. Lavenza and the Velvet Room return with a fun new theme. Filling out the compendium is as fun as always. This will probably be my last big release I finish for the year. I gotta knock out some of the smaller titles in the backlog, but it is one hell of a way to end it. I love these characters. I love this game. Well, that about wraps up my list. Remember, this is a personal list. Sure, I enjoyed the hell out of Mario Wonder. I'm sure when I get around to Sea of Stars, Mario RPG, and the Star Ocean remake, I'll have a blast with those too. Why don't you leave me your list down in the comments? We are truly blessed to live in this era of gaming we do, no matter the console you're playing on. I thank you for watching. Please take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you so fancy. And as always, stay creepy.